We were in the Caribbean, and unfortunately we engaged a Soviet submarine, and they thought we were being provocative, and they decided to fire one of their torpedoes at us. And we had what at the time was a very small crack in the hull. So a lot of water is rushing in. I was just gripped with fear. And I kept saying to myself, you gotta snap out of it. They're looking to you to lead them. And my instinct was, none of these men are gonna go down into that space if you don't go down there. So the thing was, if you want them to believe, you gotta believe. So I went down first.
Hello everyone. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of Navigating Technology with Zeal. I'm Rashmi Jain, CIO at Zeal IT Consultants, and every episode we try our hardest and attempt to bring a technology leader to the forefront where we can discuss their life experiences, we can discuss their areas of expertise, and we can learn collectively and grow collectively with their shared wisdom. We have a very special guest in our studios today. In fact, I think our podcast gets celebrity status thanks to this gentleman being here today. We are so honored and so happy to have Phillip McKibbins here in our studios. Phillip is Global CTO of Privé & Peer, ex-CIO at Dallas Mavericks. Yes. And if I continued on with the laundry list of accomplishments and awards and career tracks, I think that would be the entire episode. So I'm gonna stop the fan gushing here and welcome Phillip to our podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me. I've been looking forward to this for several weeks.
Oh, thank you. That means the world. Yeah. We try every week in our episodes, Phillip, to have our leaders share in their collective wealth, because I feel like as a community of technologists, we grow and move forward together. And I'm seeing, especially with my CIO, CTO peers, this mentality of, we're here to help each other out, especially in the DFW area. So I think my most interesting question when I look at someone with your caliber and expertise and experience is, what was the journey that led you here to this moment?
Wow. Well, I've been working in technology for the last 30 years. I've worked at every major motion picture studio during that time period. I started off as a consultant with IBM Global Services, and that led me to the Walt Disney Company, where I've had at least 3 tours with them. And I've just been really intrigued by how technology can change and shape the public agenda. So whether I'm working on a movie, like with Sony, I supported motion pictures, and I still remember the days of having to go through the green light process and having to get through 4 divisional CIOs just to get to the main CIO and to get all of the lines of business aligned on a concept or on a project, to being fortunate enough to be chosen to write the business continuity plan and disaster recovery plan for the Walt Disney Company. That was probably one of the most challenging moments of my life. I aged significantly during that time period. Boy, I learned things about Disney that I probably shouldn't have learned. And that's led me to working with every major sports league at some point. I've done work with the NHL when I was working with the Comcast Entertainment Group, because I used to be with their little small sports network called Versus. Because when I was with Comcast Entertainment, I supported e-television, Style, Versus, the Golf Channel. I still remember the day when this little obscure family named the Kardashians walked in for the first time, and they met with Ryan Seacrest. and he was pitching the concept of them doing a reality show. And
Wow.
it was so interesting seeing them. I mean, they didn't look nothing like how they look now. But it was interesting. And spent a lot of time with Ryan over the years. He probably doesn't even remember me, but I used to kick him out of conference rooms all the time. It was fun. It was like the thing to do. But when I look at the journey doing that, working with the NFL, spending a little bit of time with the Minnesota Vikings, and then ultimately working with Major League Baseball and being with the Dodgers, which was just a tremendous blessing. And then, of course, I had a lot of time with ESPN during that time period. And it was really my ESPN journey that put me on the path here now, because two things happened to me while I was with ESPN. One, my CTO walked in one day, he was brand new, and he was looking for my boss. And he walks up and says, "Where's your boss?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Who the hell are you? What do you do? And why should I let you keep your job?" I thought
like out of the blue?
Out of the blue. First time I met him.
Okay.
I thought that was the funniest thing I ever heard in my life. So I started laughing. And I said, "Well, let me tell you who the hell I am. I'm Phil McKibbins. I do this, I do that. I'm blah, 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 blah." And next thing I know, it was 2 hours later, and he was like, "You're one of the most fascinating people I've ever met." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And he's like, "Can I come see you tomorrow?" I was like, "Sure." Came the next day, and we talked about the business. He came the next day. Then he came the fourth time. And by the end of the fourth session, and they were 2-hour sessions each time, he got a real good picture of my understanding of how the sausage was made. And not only did I tell him about all the ingredients, I told him about the savory smoke flavor and all the special nuances.
Right.
And when he came back the fifth day, he said, "I do not want to talk to you today, but I have an offer for you. I want you to be my second." I was floored by that. And I was like, "Wait a minute, my boss wants to be your second. And if I take it, he's going to be mad at me."
Right.
He's like, "Don't worry about him. I want you." And next thing I know, he put me over the $285 million technology budget, where I managed the portfolio, and he had me revamp the green light process for projects. And then he took me on a 7-year journey, because I had been with the company 1 year by then, where he moved me around every year. And the directive was the same: learn, come back in 30 days with your ideas on how to improve it, and then execute. So he put me in app development, he put me in QA, he put me in network, he put me in infrastructure, in architecture.
Wow.
So I didn't realize he was prepping me to become him one day. And it's so funny how life goes, because I ran into him at the All-Star game in Indianapolis. And all I could do was just thank him and say, "I had no idea that you were putting me on the path, but thank you." And so that was one. The second thing that put me on the path was a chance meeting where I worked in emerging technology at ESPN, and we had a meeting with the NBA. And we were going to do a show on how do we make the draft combine more appealing, where we could increase our viewership. So I said,
"It's a big deal now, isn't
"Oh,
it?"
yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, I go to the meeting. My boss tells me, this isn't the CTO, it was my original boss that wanted to be the second. He tells me, "Sit there, shut up, don't say a word." And I was like, "Well, why am I here?" But I said, "Okay, fine." I sat in the meeting. Commissioner Stern came in, David Stern. He ran the meeting, and the crux of the meeting was, how do we turn the draft combine into a more exciting and watchable event? So I sat there for 2 hours, didn't say a word. So the meeting's about to end, and he says, "We've heard from," this is Commissioner Stern, "we've heard from everybody in the room except one person." And I'm like, "Oh, man." So he says, "You over there." I want your opinion.
Right.
And Rashmi, I was like, I ain't saying a word. I look at my boss and he's going, don't you say a word, like a parent would do a kid. And then Commissioner Stern's like, no, I want to hear his opinion.
Right.
So I said, you really want to hear my opinion? He's like, yeah. So, and this is an important point to people that I want to point out is you have to speak truth to power. And I said, if you really want my opinion, I'll give it. He says, sure. I said, in all due respect, Commissioner Stern, everything I've heard today is crap.
Right.
Then I stopped talking. So you can imagine.
Mic drop.
Oh, people around the room are like, who is this guy? And I said, okay, you're probably all pissed off about what I said, but let me explain this to you.
Right.
In the NFL, the reason why so many people watch their combine is because, one, you don't really get to see football players like you do there, because that's when you get to see their faces. And they do a superb job in showing dynamic movement, change of direction, strength, power. And they tell you a really nice backstory. Y'all just show tall people can jump, and that's it. Yeah. And he looks at me, he pauses, and he says, you're going to work on the draft combine for the next 3 years, meeting adjourned, And I got assigned to it, and I started working with people in the NBA, and I helped design some of the drills that they still use to this day, how we would film it, how we would measure it, because look, I worked on sports science.
Right.
So I knew the drill, and we just applied sports science to the draft combine, and I got to go to Chicago every year to Michael Jordan's gym and see all of the great GMs and coaches and many of the current players that are towards the latter stage of their career. I still remember seeing them as guys just trying to get drafted, and but that changed my whole life. Didn't think nothing of it. And then about 2 years ago, I just finished my assignment with the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. The very next day, my phone rings. I look at it. I don't recognize the number. And I say to my wife, I don't know this number. Should I answer it? And my wife, in the way that she, in her truest form, says to me, and I quote, you better answer that phone. We need money, so you need to get a job.
See who's calling.
Hey, so I answer, and the guy on the other end says, is this Phil McKibbins? And I'm like, well, yeah. And he's like, is this the same Phil McKibbins that in a meeting with Commissioner David Stern said everything I heard was crap? And I bust up laughing.
You're notorious.
Yeah. And he said, you became a meme for us, because he said when people would blurt stuff out in a meeting, from that point, we would say you were Mckibbons, which I thought was funny.
In today's day and age, you would be a viral meme, right?
Very true.
They would have your face splashed everywhere saying that phrase.
Big time. And the guy, his name was Brian Lick. He's like, hey, there's a team. We've been following you for the last 12 years. We think you're ready to be a CTO in the NBA. And there's a team that's interested in you. And I immediately said, yes, the Lakers, I accept. I can't wait to get started. I love LeBron. I'm a big Magic fan. And he's just dying laughing. He's like, nah, it's not the Lakers. And I'm sitting there thinking, because I'm living in LA, and I'm thinking, man, what team? I said, oh, okay, I got it. It's the Clippers, the JV team. Yeah. They don't win much. They kind of suck, but
fun reputation.
And he's really dying now, because I'm like, wait a minute, George Hanna, a good friend of mine, he's a CTO. It nothing happened to him, and he's like, no, it's not the Clippers. Right. So then I just say, well, look, Brian, I don't mean to be rude, but what team?
Right.
And he's like, it's the Dallas Mavericks. And all I could say was, oh. And he's like, oh. I said, yeah, oh.
You know we're going to have to edit all of this out,
I know,
right?
but that's okay. Well, they know the story. But anyway, I just
we're
said,
here in Dallas,
so. And he said, well, the Mavericks. And I said, look, the reason why I'm saying, is because I promised my wife we would never move back to Texas. Because I worked for Chevron USA many years ago. My wife lasted all of 3 weeks because when that humidity hit her hair and her hair went poof into a big
Houston
afro.
For you, yes.
She was like, no more Texas. No, I didn't know. And then I just said, okay. And we went through 19 interviews, and then they asked me to come to Dallas to meet with St. Marshall. And then the rest was history.
How was that interview with St.?
It was.
I'm just building up on your prior.
It was funny.
Reputation preceding.
When I walked in, she said, "This is either going to be the fastest interview of your life. It will either be the best or the worst." And so I was like, "Oh." And she said, "I've just got one question for you." And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "Tell me your leadership style." And then I proceeded to say, "May I tell you a story?" She's like, "Sure." And then I proceeded to tell her a story about being assigned to the USS Dallas and being in charge of damage control. And I told the story about when we got in harm's way. I think I shared a little bit of it with you before.
I would love for our viewers to hear it. It's a very moving story.
You want me to tell it now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
It's a true testament of what true leadership stands for.
Okay. So I told her the story about I was a young officer aboard the USS Dallas. I was put in charge of damage control, which meant if there was a fire or a breach, I would be responsible for leading the men into that space. And
This is underwater.
Underwater, we were in the Caribbean, and unfortunately, we engaged a Soviet submarine while we were doing prospective commanding officer drills, and they thought we were being provocative, and they decided to fire one of their torpedoes at us.
Oh.
And I will tell you, I don't know how many hours we drilled and drilled and drilled. You are not prepared for the real deal until it happens. Mm-hmm. And when I heard that torpedo in the water, I was just like stricken with fear. And but we had a captain who was amazing, and he was able to maneuver us where we avoided the torpedo, and then we got in range to fire our torpedo back, and we shot, but we didn't miss. But due to their torpedo hitting an underwater canyon, the shock wave caused damage to our hull. And we had what at the time was a very small crack in the hull. And it's a very pressurized system. So a lot of water is rushing in. And we were called to general quarters. And I went to go assume command of my group. And when I got there, I was just gripped with fear. Mm-hmm. And I kept saying to myself, you got to snap out of it. They're looking to you to lead them. And all I could do was pray. And I asked God, because I said, man, I'm 23 years old. I haven't been married. I haven't had children. And today I'm going to die. That's what I was facing. I looked at the men. Some of them were shaking. Some of them were just scared out of their wits. And I said, I'm not going to proselytize to you, but we all believe in something. And I'm going to pray. If you'd like to pray with me, we'll hold hands. I said, I don't care if you pray to God, Buddha, to the universe, to whatever.
Right. We
just need to be on one accord. And we prayed. To my surprise, many people converted, found Christ that moment, didn't expect that. And when it was over, I said, all right, man, we're going into space so-and-so. We're going to have exactly 1 minute to get in that space and seal the hull. We got there, and my instinct was, none of these men are going to go down into that space if you don't go down there. So the thing was, if you want them to believe, you got to believe. So I went down first. And when I went down and my feet hit the pavement, the water was at my knees. And I had my stopwatch, and I said, I'm starting the stopwatch. We've got 1 minute. And everybody came down. We start doing what we need to do. We had our little big cork and mallet, believe it or not, that's how they do it. And we're hammering, and we put that cork in that crack. And then 30 seconds, the water was at my waist. 45 seconds, the water was here. I stopped my watch, and I said, everybody out. And I got everybody out, and I was the last person. By then, we had reached 1 minute. The water was now over my head. I was treading water. The water was cold. And all I could do, I still remember closing my eyes, thanking God, and I just raised my hand. And those men pulled me out, and I got up top, and I looked at them. We looked at one another. We started hugging one another. Then we fell out and started doing snow angels. I do not know why we did it. It's not like we said, okay, 1, 2, 3, snow angel. You know, we just started doing the snow angels. We sealed the hull. And then the captain came over to 1MC, and he's like, Mr. McKibbins, come to my stateroom.
Because that wasn't following protocol, was it?
It was not. And everybody was like, ooh, you know, because they knew if he's calling you directly,
right,
you were in trouble. So I get there, and he's like, what the hell were you thinking? And I'm like, what do you mean, sir? He's like, at the time, this would have been a lot of money. He said, we spent $2 million training you to become an officer. We can't lose you. Send the men down there. They're expendable. And I said to the captain, in all due respect, sir, how can I ask a man to give me his life if I'm not willing to give my life for him? Mm-hmm. So they would not have gone down in that space had I not gone first. Someone had to believe. So that's why I went down. And he's like, don't do it again. And I said, in all due respect, sir, if I was same situation, I would do it again. And I said, it's not that I don't want to follow your orders, but they needed something and someone to believe in.
Right.
And so I finished the story. Sent was in tears at that moment. And she asked me, when can you start? And I was like, when do you want me? She's like, Monday. And I was like, and it's a Friday. Like, I promised my wife we're going to Hawaii, so I can start a week after.
Right.
And that's pretty much how it went down. You know, so I'm sincerely grateful for the opportunity. Being the CTO of the Mavericks has been a tremendous journey. Mm-hmm. It's been a blessing, and it's opened so many doors for me as a result. So
wonderful.
So anyway,
well, thank you for your service.
Thank you. And look, the men and women that put their lives on the line every day are the true superheroes.
Yes.
And it is an honor and a privilege to serve.
It is.
And I, to this day, those guys I served with, those are my brothers. And some sisters, and I'll forever be grateful for the things they've done
Absolutely.
for me.
Every single right and privilege we take for granted and celebrate with our families, sleep well at night. It's thanks to someone's kids being out there protecting our liberty.
Somebody is on watch.
Yes, absolutely. We're so grateful for that. That's one debt you can never repay, is for someone that gives their life so that you can live yours. So very, very grateful for that.
Yeah.
So going back to, I'm sensing a theme here, right? I'm sensing a little defiance for authority, little honesty mixed in with a candor, and knowing what you bring to the table, confidence. I don't want our younger generation to get the wrong impression,
right?
Because they don't see context sometimes, and they don't see. They only see the literal of what you're saying. Mm-hmm. How do you walk that fine line? Because you obviously would not have been as successful as you've been if you weren't also politically correct, if you weren't also diplomatic, if you weren't bringing people together. Mm-hmm. These are very life-changing event examples of when you did not
Right.
I think you were dauntless and you were fearless and you spoke your truth.
Right.
And I think you do that with great honesty, largely because of your faith. I see that. What advice do you give the younger generation when it comes to being in the corporate world and finding that balance of speaking your truth yet towing the line in a way?
Right. Well, the military does a wonderful thing about teaching you discipline. And in order to lead, you must learn to follow first. And even though I shared a story about what I did and went against protocol, the reason why I was able to do that was because I knew what the mission was. The mission was seal the hole, no matter what.
Right.
The mission was save the sub, or what we call the boat. And the mission was, to be frank with you, the mission was all of us were going to die for the sake of the other 79 men aboard, because you have 99 men aboard a fast attack. I just chose to, we're not going to die today. Because when God gave me that vision, I was like, we're going to survive. So I went outside the box. Now, I would follow my captain anywhere. And that man has shaped me in so many ways. And just to give you an idea about the type of person he was, we would have dinner every night in the officers' mess. It's basically the officers' dining room. And we would dress up in our formal uniforms and we'd have dinner. And he loved lively conversation. And he would pose different questions and he would have us debate. And I'll never forget the day that he posed a question, what is the difference between capitalism and communism?
Okay.
And, you know, all the officers were given the standard, oh, we stand for truth and justice and blah, 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 and they're the bad people. And when it came to me, I was quiet. And another one of those situations where he's like, well, Mr. McKibbins, what's your opinion? And I said, in all due respect, see, that's what gets me in trouble. When I said, I said, there is no difference.
Right.
And they're like, what? And I said, okay, hear me out. Someone's on top.
Right.
Many are on the bottom.
Right.
True communism is true Marxism, and there's an elite class and everybody else.
Everybody else.
Capitalism, there's an elite class. I said, do you think the Rockefellers were thinking about democracy when they were doing the things they were doing, or do you know?
Right.
And oh my God, why did I say that? You know, some of the other officers was like, you're a communist and you shouldn't be here. And I had to say, look, I am just as patriotic as you.
Yeah.
The question was, what's the difference? And I said, on paper, yes, I agree with you. But in practice,
Right.
So I said, look, if I'm ordered to fire on, you know, this submarine, I'm going to be like, yes, sir, let's go, let's do it. And I'm going to serve to the best of my ability without thinking twice about it.
Right.
However, there's still a conscience. There's still me feeling sorry for my enemy. So the moral of the story is I follow orders, but I also think outside the box. And for our young people there, and I have this debate all the time with my kids, because my daughter's one of these people's like, I don't understand why I'm not the president of the company. And I'm like, you can be the president of your own company. But until then, you know, you've got to come in at an entry level. You've had to learn the ropes. You have to learn the business. You've got to do the work. There's no substitute.
There's no substitute for it.
And I'll tell anybody, because the young people that I've employed, I love their candor. I encourage them to give their opinion, but I also challenge them to learn.
Right.
And I give them the opportunities to do real work. I don't believe in internships where they're getting me coffee. I can get my own freaking coffee, you know. I want them to know why we're doing something, the whys behind it, and I want to see the power of their observation. So I'm just fortunate that I've been in situations where I've been encouraged to speak my truth.
Wonderful.
But by being in the military, you learn you don't just blurt stuff out either.
Yeah.
And there's a time and a place where you'll get an opportunity.
I
But
think it's that sense of timing that comes with experience.
absolutely. I try to really be conscious of my audience and think about what would they think if I said this. And then I'll ask them how they feel, or I'll try to qualify. Because I seek to understand first and foremost before being understood.
You have earned the bravado
Yes,
that you display, and
Very
it's gotten
true.
you where.
very
And I
true.
think that's an important fact to remember.
Well, I'm not the typical technology person,
Right.
you know, and what I mean by that is many high-level technologists that I've met, very brilliant, very smart people, but tended to be very introverted, or they stayed within the parameters of their
Right.
box. And for me, and it's so funny because for many years I was an introvert. I mean, the idea of doing something like this would have blown my mind. And it was an executive.
Which is surprising to me because you're such
I
a
know.
natural.
Oh, well, look, I had an executive at Comcast who changed my world. And I remember when I took over the team, we had to meet with this executive. She was in charge of ad sales, and my team had done a terrible job serving her. And she came to LA to meet with the new technology person. And she listened for about 10 minutes, and then she said, "Stop talking. I can't stand any of you guys. You're a waste of my air." And I had to sit there and take it. And my team is all looking, and I listened and I took notes. And then I asked her, I said, "Wendy, will you give me 1 month to prove to you that will be worthy of your respect?" And she's like, 1 month?
Right.
She said, "I could give you 6 months. You guys are terrible." I said, "I just want 1 month." And we shook on it. Then I had a meeting with the team, and they're laughing. And I'm like, "What's so funny?" They're like, "We knew you were going to fail." And I'm like, "Wait a minute.
He's like,
So y'all knew I was walking in this meeting, y'all didn't say a word." They're like, "Nah, we figured you just figure it out."
right.
So I said, "Well, since..."
No.
Yeah. So I said, "Tell you what, I wasn't joking about 30 days. So I said, I want to see everybody's work. I want to go through every work stream. I want to know the issues, the problems." And then I started talking to Wendy and all of her directs, start finding out what the core issues were. And then at week 3, I came up with a new plan. And then I got on Wendy's calendar and I flew to New York and I presented to her problem, solution, recommendation. And she looked at me and she called her husband, who was the CIO of Warner Brothers. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but that man was a genius. And he was like, he wanted me to pitch it to him as well. And he basically came back and said that was brilliant. And then she's like, "Well, I'll reserve judgment until you actually execute." And she ended up becoming my greatest advocate because she pulled me aside one day and said, "You need to start coming to functions with me. You need to start networking." And she would invite me to these leadership team meetings where I was meeting the executive leadership team of Comcast. And I came out of that meeting with the, okay, this is what we need to do.
Right.
And we were able to transform how we were even doing business with them. And little did I know, she was really teaching me greater humility and teaching me to understand my customer. Even though I learned that as a consultant, it's a whole different story when you're dealing with a very powerful person, and she was very powerful with Comcast. But the moral of the story is that you do have to humble yourself. You do have to. The true thing is being a servant leader.
Absolutely. It seems like life has unfolded in a way where you've gotten some pretty powerful signs, some subtle, some not so subtle.
Yeah.
You've been presented with some incredible leaders and
Yes.
people that you've learned from that have presented you these opportunities, and you have been equally open and willing to learn from them by being humble and kind and gracious in return, and understanding where the growth is needed in your career. And that sort of has been like a stepping stone or ladder for your way up, as every step of the way you have helped someone that has then turned around and helped you.
That is true.
And you learn from and isn't that such a magical, beautiful way to have your career and life unfold in that manner? So I want to touch on the controversial topic of faith and workplace, because it is just coming across to me as we were talking. But before we do that, I don't want to lose sight that, we are like a tech podcast. So this conversation has been so riveting. If my eyes are glazing over, it's because I'm imagining myself in the bottom of a submarine as you're talking about it, because you are an incredible storyteller.
Wow.
But from a technology standpoint, right? Because of the journey your career has been and the industries you worked in, from hospitality to telecommunications to major league, different sports.
Right.
What are you seeing from a trend standpoint, from a tech standpoint, that is, you're like, oh, of all these years in being in this industry, this is blowing my mind what we're doing? Because a lot of industries are going through this revolutionary phase of a lot of movement happening that they haven't seen before. Are you experiencing the same in your space?
Wow. Very good question. I'll answer it this way. I was actually on the radio this morning and this came up. The evolution of AI right now is fascinating to me. And it's fascinating because it's so reminiscent of the dot-com era. It's reminiscent of the personal computer era. I've been around long enough to see all this stuff. Shoot, I still remember programming in Fortran. That's my first language I learned. And
I was not that far behind you. I was Fox Pro.
Yeah, I remember that. And oh shoot, I still remember the punch cards and all that stuff. We go through different advents in technology, and the one thing that I have to say that I think people need to be cognizant of is the one constant is change. And that change will not blow you away if you're willing to pivot and go with the change. When AI started kicking up, especially I know with the Mavs, there was all this, we got to start doing AI. And I used to go, well, what do you want to do with it?
Right, exactly.
And they'd be like,
yes.
And I'd be like, I don't think y'all really know what you're saying.
Right.
And then I remember telling people, and I tell people to this day, it's not like the movies. That is a movie.
Right.
What you're thinking about is about 5-6 years away, maybe.
Right.
But I'm fascinated by how it was, once again, my wife, because she would get on me, stop talking negatively about AI, and you better do this and that and that. And she's such a wise woman. And so when I look at how things are now, I'll tell people, embrace the change. Because I'm a continual learner, a lot of the stuff doesn't faze me much because I'm like, this is just the next thing you have to learn. And that's really led me to being the global CTO of Purvey and Peer. And it's all because I'm like, you know what, this isn't my forte, but I'm going to learn and I'm going to immerse myself and I'm going to allow myself to be around smarter, more talented people that are experts in this field, and let me be the conductor, let me be the project manager, let me be the person that removes obstacles from their path.
Keeps it all together.
Exactly. And the one constant in all of the things that I've done over the years in technology was having that understanding about scope, schedule, and resources, because every project comes down to that. So the technology is constantly changing. it gets more complex. But understanding that how do we apply this?
Yes.
That is the most important thing.
That's scope, schedule, and resource
resources.
matrix or equation. That's time tested. That does not change. That'll serve well no matter what tech you're working with.
Very true. So I hope I answered your question.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Any cool tech you can share?
Oh boy, I'm gonna try not to get in trouble because my owner constantly is like, now don't tell people too much. I am enjoying learning agentic AI right now.
Okay.
I am blown away, and I'm loving how we are creating something that'll be new to the industry, that nobody has. That is, I'm gonna call it human-centric agentic AI.
You're reading the words from the Zeal playbook, I'll tell you. That's
Well, it's so enjoyable. They were showing me a demo today because we're working on our main sprint. We're finishing up the sprint for this month, and they're actually ahead of schedule. And later today, I'll call our founder and tell her we're ahead of schedule.
Sweeter words have not been spoken by a tech person.
It's so great. But I don't want her to get, because I know what she's going to say. Well, if that's the case, then we can come in 3 weeks earlier. And I'm like, no, let them stay on the path, because now all we got to do is connect the pieces together. And then we'll go sit down with a very large financial institution and go, this is what we've done. If you were blown away by what we showed you a month and a half ago, you're going to really lose your mind when you see it's all come together. And now we're ready to tie into the systems.
We need a follow-up when you do have the ability to talk more in detail
I
about all
can't
this technology, because I can't wait either.
When we launch, I will be more than happy to come back and then just really break it down and go, this is how we did it. This is why.
I think we're like a whiteboard session is coming our way.
Oh, that'll be so great. Yeah.
So going back to my other question, many times throughout our conversation today, you referred to your faith and what a pillar that has been throughout, right? It's a little bit of a controversial topic where people talk about at work these days. What is your balance? Because I am a person of faith myself, and different people follow different faiths. It all leads to the same place. I'm a believer of that. What has that journey been like from a workplace standpoint, whether it comes in team selection or selecting a place of employment you're going to be at? How is that guiding your decisions?
The most important thing is integrity. And a lot of people, I'm very misunderstood because they see me do stuff and they think, oh, it's smoke and mirrors or it's easy. But they don't see the work behind it. They don't see
You make it look easy.
Exactly. Right. I am the hamster on the wheel and my legs are turning, but up top I'm just as cool as can be.
See, that's another thing, you making it look easy. It's easier said than done to block out the noise from the message.
Yeah. Well, you have to. On the message. You got to be to the point where I'm just going to be frank. You got to say no to your own stuff. Yeah. You got to stop the inner self-talk. You got to stop the doubt. You've got to start thinking, okay, if I'm going to be a change agent, how do I affect change? Right. I affect change by defining the problem, being observant, and then as a good servant leader, how can I serve this person? What are the things that keep them up at night? And what do I have at my disposal? Do I have direct control over it? Is there someone else I have to go to recruit, to help? Right. And I focus on all those things. So I don't get rattled, because, and it pales in comparison to, you're about to die. Yeah. All they're going to do is find the next person to come in and
take the job
and take the job. So it gives you perspective.
It does. So and what's really important.
That's true. And what's important is those people who are dependent upon you, right. Your family, your workers, the people that you trust. and the people that you serve. That's what's important.
Yeah. It's funny, you start a tech podcast and you think you're going to be discussing all these buzzwords. What's the infrastructure and what are your preferences for data handling and data classification?
Yeah.
But it ends up being a very basic, down back to what's truly important aspects of human nature that makes us all tick and makes us all work together. And that's what shapes a good leader, is as much as those soft skills, because it seems like the tech skills are easier to acquire in a way.
The tech skills.
Not to minimize tech skills. But
well, look, you can go take a class and you can learn it, but can you apply it?
Exactly.
Can you understand your audience? I've always been fascinated by movies because movies and television can set the public agenda. And I've been really a student of the craft.
Interesting.
And when you start breaking technology projects down in that realm, I love the storyboard stuff. And people be looking at me like, what in the world? What are you doing? And I'm like showing the storyboard. All right, this is the journey. This
is like the third podcast we're doing with you. Is breaking down the trends in cinema over the years. And how that's a reflection of things going on and things to come.
Oh, very true.
Right?
Look, I love people. Right. And if I had to sum this all up, it is the summary of wanting to be a servant leader and wanting to serve others. I was talking to a technologist this morning, and she was explaining to me different challenges she's having. And I said to her, you're the smartest person in the room. You have to learn to not display it. Yeah. Because what I mean by that is there's the phrase that game knows game.
Right.
And if you're already the smartest person, you don't have to flex.
You've established it.
Exactly.
Your work establishes it.
But if you spend the time focusing on, now how can I serve you? How can I help you? How can I understand you? I was telling her that you will get more, bees with honey than you will with vinegar. Mm-hmm. And I was telling her that most of the time, I'm the smartest person in the room, but nobody loves being around the smartest person. They despise that. Right. So you have to say no to your ego and start focusing on how do I help the collective. Right. And that's really how I've tried to lead my life, because I've been around a lot of super talented people. I bet. And
that talent comes at a price.
It does.
There's a lot of work that goes behind.
Very true.
Whether you're a skilled basketball player or a musician or a technologist, to hone that skill and the amount of practice, dedication, and work and effort that takes.
That's real.
It's all in the background. People just see the celebrity. They don't see what it took for them to
get there
and maintain it.
That is true.
So what's next for Phillip? What are your personal, professional goals? Where are you headed?
Well, with Purvey and Peer, I will mentor the technology development of these products to the point where ultimately we will most likely sell them, and then the next project will come along and we'll work on that. I see myself at some point being someone's chief operating officer and eventually a CEO of a medium to major company. Mm-hmm. I see myself teaching more. I see myself mentoring more. I used to coach football, and I loved coaching football because it wasn't about teaching football, it was about teaching life. Right. For me, I want to help many young people and other people discover many of the things that I've discovered. And I've told my wife, if you think I'm going to retire, get that out your mind. I'm going to focus on serving others, for hopefully the next 20 years, if God blesses me with 20 more years of life. And I want to use this body up until there's nothing left. This is I'm gonna ride it till the wheels fall off.
I have a certain level of envy for people who retire and then they're like, now they're living the retired life.
Yeah.
I haven't quite figured out how, because I think when we love what we do as much as we do, it sort of becomes a part of who we are.
It is.
And then you don't find a need to retire from it.
Yeah.
It would be almost like retiring from reading books or listening to music.
Yeah.
It's such a core part of the fabric of what you are and who you are. So I kind of
I'll tell you this right now. I probably will go ahead and get a PhD. I've been pondering that for the last year or two.
Any areas of focus for the PhD?
Haven't fully decided yet, but I definitely want to teach. Because that's a great retirement plan, is to go off and teach at some university, and But actually, a friend of mine who used to be the second in charge at the WWE told me this, and he said, if you ever decide to teach technologists, especially, he said, C-suite technologists, how to integrate into the business, how to be more personable, and how to balance your technical side and lift your people side. He said, you will make so much money, it's ridiculous, because he said, I've never met a technology leader like you. He said, if just listening to you, I would think you're something else,
right?
Because you're so personable. And you're so knowledgeable and you're so understanding. And he said, but I see that's your secret sauce. And I'm like, it's exactly my superpower, because look, I'm like, dude, don't you know I was that person?
Right.
And the differentiator for me was stop being the stereotype technology person. Really open your eyes and be a student of the business.
And the fact that we're all multifaceted.
It's true.
Right? And the fact that you don't have to box yourself into a definition of being one way or the other.
Right.
That if you're open to learning and growing,
Yeah.
there's lots of skills that can be learned along the way that round off
That's
our
true.
overall professional personalities.
Very true.
Well, Phillip, I'm so honored and so grateful that you decided to come and join us. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure.